Do you want to know how you can launch your NLP coaching practice? So my first certification, this is kind of embarrassing, but my first certification in NLP was in 2010. And I remember very clearly that after the certification was over, I went and I had a, actually the certification was a DHE, it's a kind of an offshoot of NLP that Richard Bandler developed. And so I got my first certification, and I went and I got business cards designed, my name on it, Peter Schwartz, DHE, and then magically, clients were going to start to appear. And I think we both know that that's not how it works. And so what I want to share with you are a couple of ways for you to start thinking about how you can start to get your first clients. Now, I have been coaching full-time for the last 2 years and seeing clients full-time for the past 2 years. Before that, it was on and off. And so here's what I can tell you about coaching and finding your first couple of clients. The first thing that you have to understand is that for most of you, when you're starting out, I think that I'm going to assume that you're not starting from a position of great wealth, that you don't have the income to hire people to do your marketing and your sales on your behalf. That's my first assumption. That if you're, and to be honest, even if you have the money, you shouldn't. So much of coaching is really about your ability to communicate and to connect and to influence and to persuade in the first place. That if you can't get clients on your own, you probably should work on that first before you go and assemble a team. So my assumption is that you've gotten out of practitioner, master practitioner, and that now you want to start to go find clients. So my first thing would be don't. That would be the first thing I would tell you. I'd say don't go find clients first. I would say first master your skill set. That's the first thing I would encourage you to do is before you start getting paid to do coaching, be worthy of a paycheck. And this is not an inherent worthiness issue, not your worth as a human being, but you're charging for a service. And good NLP is incredibly transformative. And I think when I first came out of my DHE training, I was still confused about what good NLP change work looked like, about what types of results I could expect from a coach or for clients, right? And so I think, John Grinder said that the only application of NLP that he was interested in was the development of human excellence. And so I think if you do start down this path, you have to kind of, wear that hat of I am going to pursue absolute and utter excellence as the standard in my coaching practice, that I'm going to develop my skill set and continue to develop my skill set. I'm going to study different camps of NLP. I'm going to expose myself to criticism, to feedback, to supervised coaching so that people can see how I work with other people, and that it's always going to be a continual lifelong process. That if you adopt that attitude and that mindset, then what starts to happen is before you even look to get your first client, you start to see, can you get results for people in the first place? So this is also a double-edged sword, because in the beginning, you're gonna start doing change work on your friends and your family. And these are not typically the best people to start with. It's fine because you're practicing, you're running your mouth, you're practicing the anchors, you're putting behaviors into action, right? And you cannot learn without applied behavior. Your brain needs something to map to. If you're learning to shoot a basket, right, you can visualize that all day, but until you miss, your brain can't recalculate and say, this is what's actually required. So the double-edged sword part, the other side of that blade, is that your friends and family will have their own associations, their own anchors to you. right? So when eventually you do start charging, you'll be getting people who see you as an authority on change work. There'll be people who are motivated to change because they're paying for it, right? When somebody is willing to pay to do something, to change, then typically they've gotten to a point a lot of times where they're so ready to change, sometimes you just have to sit there and give them permission to do so. So practice, practice, practice. You should be able to know what the various interventions in NLP, the various techniques are used for, when they're appropriate and when they're not. And by all means, whatever you do not become addicted to your style. This is probably the most important thing that you can learn. You will have strengths that you prefer, and that's fine. But too many people in this field, either because it's good marketing or because they genuinely just prefer their style, become addicted to their model of coaching, right? And you see this across the board. I won't name any names, but certain fantastic trainers, amazing, amazing trainers will only teach this model or that model. And realistically, each model has something unique to contribute. So do not become an addict. Do not become a slave to your style, because the more that you do that, the less flexible you are. And remember that flexibility, requisite variety, is what allows you to influence more effectively. That's an NLP precept for the newbies who are here. I'm gonna assume that you can get results for people, right? So now, how do you go about creating a business? How do you go about creating an income from your coaching practice? Well, the good news is if you're skilled at NLP, it's an incredible skill set. I mean, you know, there are very few industries who could not benefit from a skilled neurolinguistic programmer. Somebody who knows this stuff well and can not just know it, but do it well. Valuable across the board, and in my opinion. But let's say you want to have a one-on-one coaching practice. Well, that's gonna come down to a coaching practice is really a sales business. I got news for you. This type of business that you're in, it's a sales business, right? You sell your coaching service to people. Now, let me give you some best practices. I'm not going to tell you that this is how you must do it. However, these are best practices and you would be wise to follow them. Some people can get away with not doing these things because of either their network or their personality, or their mom has a big mouth and just refers them to everybody. Whatever it is, if you're one of those people, great. But a best practice is to niche down, meaning picking a segment of the population. Here, Seth Godin talks about it in his book, This is Marketing. He says, who is the smallest population with a problem that I can actually solve? Knowing who you want to serve. And this is really important for your marketing, for your ability to actually connect to that audience. Number two, it's really important for your competency. If you see the same types of issues over and over and over again, you're gonna get really good at solving those problems, right? So if, for example, I only work with smokers, I'm gonna get really good at that. After I see 100 smokers or 1,000 smokers, how long is it before I've seen the same problems arise? I've heard the same limiting beliefs. I've heard the same excuses show up over and over and over again. How long is it before I get really good at solving that problem? If you see the same problems again and again and again, very quickly you'll find faster, more efficient ways to do it. And then once you've done that, then it's really easy for you to create a group program where you can help 100 smokers instead of one smoker, if that makes sense. Okay? So it is gonna be a best practice for you to pick a dream client that you can help, so a niche problem. And it's really gonna be down, what people will typically pay for is health, wealth, and relationships. If you go into the personal development section, or if you look at any of the coaching industry that's out there, all of it boils down to, and at this point I think it's 13 billion or 30, but I can't remember the number, but it's gigantic amount of money gets spent in this industry. It's all about solving health, wealth, or relationships. All of it comes down to that. So somewhere in there, find a place where you can passionately serve and then go get good at it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Pick who your ideal client is. Once you've done that, guess what? You have a cell phone. And everyone is on social media now. And social media makes it incredibly easy for you to reach your ideal clients. There is gonna be some strategy involved there, right? And so I won't go into the ins and outs of how to use social media, but very briefly, if you're on Instagram, for example, if you know who you serve, you can find out what hashtags they're following, right? You know who your dream client is, you know what types of things they follow on social media. So you can start posting content curated to that dream client, right? Talking about their specific pains and how you can solve their solution. You've got a ton of testimonials. You're posting all of this stuff on your social media. So when you go and reach out to them in the DMs and they look at some of your posts, for example, let's say you struggle with panic attacks, right? If you're out there to help somebody with panic attacks and on your page is testimonial after testimonial, your exact system for how you help people with that. You know, maybe some credibility, maybe a little bit of like lifestyle posts to show who you are, okay? Then people can take one look at your page and say, oh man, this guy knows his stuff and can help me with my problem. So all of a sudden when you show up in the DM, they wanna read what you have to say. So showing up in the DM, by the way, this is how I generate appointments, is I do it through cold messenger. I am aiming to set appointments every single week with potential clients by reaching out to them in Messenger, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. Now, remember that you're in a sales business, right? And the health of any sales business is the number of appointments you set per week. All I have to ask you to know whether or not you're crushing it in your coaching business or not, or any sales, you could be a realtor, it doesn't matter. How many appointments do you have on your calendar for this week? And the number you should be aiming for is 10. You should be aiming for 10 appointments per week. 10 times a week you want to be asking people, do you want to start coaching? Okay? And obviously you're going to want to develop other skills. Sales is a skill set. Your ability to create and establish rapport. So it's useful for you to understand the other skill sets that are going to be involved in creating your business, right? Social media marketing, how to connect with your ideal client organically. In other words, without paid advertising. It's not that you can't do paid advertising, but creating funnels and doing paid ads to get your ideal client enrolled, that is the best metaphor that I can give you is it's hypothesis testing. It's like the scientific method. I have to put up a landing page. I have to pay money to send it to as many people as possible and see whether or not they respond to the title. If they don't, I have to go back and experiment some more. So paid ads are effective, but my invitation, especially if you're just starting out, would be to start organic without paying for advertising, because organically, if your messaging connects, organically, in other words, people are responding to your posts and you're not spending money on them, you can take the posts that do the best and then turn those into paid ads. So skill sets, marketing, right? You should know what the immutable laws of marketing are. This stuff is not hard. This has been published. It's sitting in the library right now waiting for you to do it. The best marketers of all time have published books. You need 4 or 5 books, honestly, underneath in your toolkit to be able to market with the best of them, okay? And then even if you don't want to read the books, it's all available on YouTube. So marketing, sales, all right? And then producing content. The more that you can do this, right? The more that you can get in front of a camera and articulate your ideas, the more that you can write posts, the better you're gonna become at connecting with your audience and sharing the process, okay? So I hope this is helpful. I gave you a lot. I know it was kind of like a fire hose, just a ton of information coming at you. But to recap, okay? Best practices, know who you serve, okay? Get really good at solving their problems. We get paid to solve problems. Know who you serve, solve their problem, and ideally, it should be a problem that people will pay you money for, right? I'm assuming, unless you're highly passionate about a particular niche because it's a passion for you, then, ideally you would find one that's a passion and you could get paid for, right? So know your niche, get really good at solving that problem, really, really good at it, and then start connecting with your audience online through producing content, through direct outreach. The whole point of everything that you do, the number one most important factor in your business is how many appointments you can set per week. I gave you the strategy of reaching out through cold messenger, producing content to build know, like, and trust. That's just one idea, okay? You're a neurolinguistic programmer, okay? I'm intentionally not giving you the other idea. I have 7 strategies. I have 7 appointment setting strategies, okay? You wanna have 3 to 5. Use your meta model skills. Enter a state of creativity and start brainstorming how you can set appointments. The meta model is gonna be your best friend. I think I was talking to an entrepreneur the other day who has done millions of dollars, and he said the meta model is his go-to tool for strategic business planning. Meta model is an incredible, incredible, incredible tool. If we could do time travel, the meta model would help us figure out how to do it. Okay. So I hope this was useful. Apply everything you've learned in NLP. Know your outcome. How much money do you want to make in your business? Who are your models? Who's currently has the coaching practice that you want? How much time can you get with that person? When I was first learning to grow my coaching practice, I watched a buddy of mine, James, blow up his coaching practice overnight. And so I asked him if I could go down and spend time with him. And I went for a weekend, 4-day weekend, and I worked side by side with him. And the amount of information that I absorbed from that experience was bizarre. It was life-changing because I saw the difference between the way he was applying himself and the way I had been doing it up until then, okay? So you know how to do this. You've been given the recipe for excellence in your NLP training. Let's start applying it. You have all the answers. Now go apply it use your business as your yoga for mastering NLP.